So this is Grace Berger. This is a player for the Indiana Fever who barely got off the bench last year. Why? I still, to this day, do not know why she didn't play. But she's just got an invitation to go to the women's 3-on-3 national team development camp. And if you look at the players that they're bringing, a lot of these players that they're getting that got the invitation is during the international break because there's no games going on right now because, well, a lot of teams in Europe. So she's probably back in the States going for this. You're looking at a lot of good, really good young players and players that you never know just could potentially be members in the future of Team USA. Like you're looking and you've got Maddie Siegrist, who is somebody that again is like would be like a dark horse to make the next Olympics team. Emily Engsler as well, an elite role player. She was obviously a member of an AmeriCup team that won gold, but again, that like she's now playing 3-on-3. And you got Lisa Peely, Maddie Siegrist. Like these are all really good players. Brittany Sykes as well is there. Natasha Howard. So she's going to be playing with and against good players. Like these are all W level players. And again, Shakira Austin's there as well. So it's like there are players here that are in with a shout of making the next Olympic team, and Grace Berger was chosen as one of them. And Grace Berger's playing well in Turkey. Like she's outplaying Erica Wheeler anyway. Albeit, like to be fair, neither of them are on the exceptionally good teams. Grace Berger's team is terrible. Like I cannot stress that enough. Like her team stinks. Like I do need to say that. But like of all the players that have been playing in Turkey from the Indiana Fever, outside of like I think Temi's probably been playing the best. Like Temi's again, but like Temi probably you could argue Temi Fagbenley is the best. But out of Wheeler, Damaris Dantas and stuff, like I really, really rate of all of them, I rate Grace Berger the highest. And to be fair, Dantas has had a couple of good games, but what Grace Berger's been doing, especially against the better teams. Like Grace Berger coming up against Fenerbahce. Yeah, her team got beaten well. But like she's being guarded by like some of the best players in the W, or some of the better players in the W are playing for Fener. So you've got like Julie Alamont, who obviously is a borderline starting level player who might end up on the Valkyries if she goes back. You've got Ariel Atkins, who's a lockdown defender, and Grace Berger's came out in that game against Fenerbahce with 23, 9 assists, and 3 of 4 from 3. Like she pretty much led the WNBA as a rookie in 3-point percentage. Like she's that level player. And I'm like, Christie, I really hope that she's protected. But the problem is that we all know you're going to protect the starting 5 because you don't want to lose Nalissa Smith. And then it's just that 6 protection. Do you risk losing Temi Fagbenley to the Golden State Valkyries? Do you risk losing Damaris Dantas? My question is yes. You risk losing them. But do you risk losing Temi? I don't know. But for me, I'd keep Grace Berger. I would, if I was the Indiana Fever, I'd keep Grace Berger and hope that they say, you know what, we have a bunch of salary, we don't need to do anything, and we'll take Katie Lou Samuelson off your hands. Like, that would be my hope, is that they look at Katie Lou Samuelson and are like blinded by the whole UConn stuff. I'm pretty sure she's from the West Coast, that there's a reason why all these teams rate her so highly, and maybe she just had a bad year because she was coming off missing a year for having a kid. That would be what I would hope for. But if Grace Berger is there, they're going to take Grace Berger. Like 6 foot tall, shooting point guards who can play make don't grow on trees in the WNBA. They don't. Like the likes of Sanaya Rivers, Cheyenne Sellers, who can play a bit of the one, they are combo guards. They're 6 foot tall combo guards. Tash Cloud is a big point guard. But most of the time they don't exist. And we saw it. We saw it during the year. We saw it anytime Grace Berger was on the floor. We saw it in the garbage time, the Grey squad, when they played against the Mystics. I get it. She did miss the game winner. But it's just the team ran so much better with Grace Berger in there than Erica Wheeler at the one. And she'd be the perfect backup for a Caitlin Clark because the way that she plays, she can play on and off the ball. We saw it when Grace Berger was on the floor earlier in the year. The team looked much better with Grace Berger and with Erica Wheeler on the floor because Grace Berger was able to know when to give it to Kelsey Mitchell, when to give it to Caitlin. She could run the one. She was the only player on the team that was able to run the one and have Caitlin Clark off the ball and it not completely be to the detriment of the team. And we're seeing her now hooping in Turkey. We're seeing Grace Berger play extremely, extremely well in Turkey. And, like, you're seeing it. It's like, for me, this is one of the reasons why you have to fire Christie Sides. When you've got a player like Grace Berger there, and you're just not playing her. Especially because, like, again, Victoria Saxton was, in fairness, Victoria Saxton played well when she played. I thought she played pretty well. But when you were persisting with lineups that didn't work, and then Grace Berger's out there coming on, doing exactly what she needs to do, and not messing up really. Yeah, there was one game early in the year when she was in the rotation and she missed, like, she went 2 of 6 in the free throw line. She never got a meaningful minute for the rest of the season. Like, early on in the year, they were playing better with Grace Berger on the floor. She was getting, I think, when they were going 2-8, when they were starting to, like, come close in some games, she was getting some minutes. And Christie Size just said, nah. Christie Size just said, nah. And that's the thing. It's like, you're looking at these players that the Fever have. And their roster is so much better and deeper than we think. Like, a Grace Berger, a Temi Fagbenle, they're the players that I'd want to keep. I want to keep the starting 5, Grace and Temi. And I want, if you can get rid of everybody else, go. And the only reason I say starting 5 is because Nalissa Smith is a trade asset. You have to use Nalissa Smith as a trade asset. And I think Grace Berger is a trade asset too. But for me, it's all about finding modern style basketball players. And how you can get modern style basketball. You need length, you need athleticism, you need shooting. And if you have all of them, even if the players aren't the best individual defenders, if you have length, athleticism, and shooting, you can put in a defensive system that if the players all buy into it, that as a team, you can play good defense. And I think a coach like Stephanie White is going to be able to do something like that. But when you've got these types of players that are just a anomaly in the WNBA, and that's the problem, is Christie Sides didn't know how to use them because she doesn't understand modern basketball. She didn't know how to use a guard like a Grace Berger. But you don't get rid of them. Like, those 5'5" point guards that WNBA teams are like, you're not going to win anything in the WNBA with a 5'6" point guard. People are like, oh, you need those backup point guards. We need Erica Wheeler. No, you're not going to win anything with a 5'6" point guard. You're not going to win anything with an Enrique. And if she's not a 5'6" point guard, with like an inefficient dribble shot chucker, you're not going to win anything with a back to the basket center. With a pure back to the basket center. You need to win at any level of basketball. You need to embrace the modern game, especially when the Liberty and the Lynx exist. Whatever about the Aces, they just have the Embiid of the WNBA in Aja Wilson, who, if to be fair, Aja Wilson is if Embiid was an Iron Man. And in fairness, we all know if Embiid was an Iron Man, he'd be considered one of the best centers of all time. Like, that's not a knock on Aja Wilson. That's what Aja Wilson is. She's just different. She's just like, all rules of basketball are thrown out the window when you've got someone as dominant as she is. But there are modern styles of basketball, and someone like a Grace Berger fits that. And I think when it comes to the Fever, you only want players that can fit a modern style of basketball. Katie Lou Samuelson can't, because she's not able to play the 4 or the 3. She's not mobile enough. You can find a more mobile player to play that can play one or the other position. You can find a stretch 4, or you can find a spot up 3. A hybrid that doesn't do either well is no good. Damaris Dantas is a good player, too slow for the way the Fever need to play. Aaliyah Boston, because she's a face-up player, she can be almost like that Jokic role. She's fine. Liz Smith doesn't process the game fast enough. Caitlin Clark, perfect. Kelsey Mitchell, perfect. Temi Fagbenle, because she runs up and down hard and she'll play defense, she's good to have. But then if you look down the roster, Celeste Taylor would have been perfect. They got rid of her. And then it's in the draft where it's like, even if you miss out, you just go on and find length, athleticism. Maybe a Sellers in the second round. Maybe a someone will fall to you in the second round. A Sivka, a Citron, Anissa Morrow in that 8th pick. And yeah, they have, I know, like a Janelle Salone if you can get them. But I would be looking to keep Grace Berger. Grace Berger could be the best backup point guard in the entire WNBA if allowed to by the right coach.